Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano. I've been doing the ketogenic diet for 8 years, and I've been coaching people throughout that time for a variety of purposes, and I'm going to teach you in this video why it's not a good idea to gradually move lower carb into ketosis, and why if you're starting the ketogenic diet, you should simply jump right in and take a couple extra supplemental precautions to make things easier. Basically add some training wheels in as you go from, carb intake to low carb intake right to the bottom, okay? So I'm going to explain why you want to do this and why essentially it's not a good idea to slow carb into this. So I'm going to start off by explaining where your carb amount has to be in order to be in ketosis, so you know the definition, and then I'm going to explain the keto gray zone, so basically the problems you'll encounter that I've explained in other videos, but then I'm going to explain the training wheels, the supplemental approaches, the macro distributions you're going to want to do in the beginning of keto, and the other tactics to make this easy, okay? Because I've explained these concepts in other videos, but this video is about explaining how to make things easy for newbies, okay? So when you're starting keto, you must know it up front that 50 grams a day or less is keto territory. That's what's generally known as keto, like keto consumption of carbohydrates. But there's a caveat that I add in where basically you cannot get those carbs from high glycemic sources, from sources that are going to spike your blood sugar. So technically you can break that 50 gram rule if you ate 70 grams a day of carb, but it was all from broccoli, okay? Granted, that would be difficult to digest with all the fiber, but the point is there's a way to break that rule and basically get more if it's from a low sugar source, okay? So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to always say 50 grams a day, under 50 grams a day, because if you're eating 20 grams a day, but it's from Snickers bars, you are not going to enjoy the diet. You're not going to be in the ketogenic metabolism. You're going to be in a carb metabolism. And that's the fundamental root of the problem here. When your body is in a low carb state, but it's not a ketogenic state, so basically when you're above that 50 gram requirement, right, and above that low sugar requirement, you're going to be on a carb metabolism, but you're not giving your body a lot of carbs. And that's why people often say they tried keto or they tried low carb and they hated it, and rightfully so, because they didn't allow their body to get into ketosis, or they kept breaking ketosis with the wrong kinds of carbs, and essentially from there they put their body into a carb state and simply gave it a small amount of carbs, right? So the thing is, ketosis is a state of energy abundance. You have access to more fats as fuel, and if you're not allowing yourself to get into that state, you're going to feel like shit. Of course, that's why I always say you either have your carbs or you don't, because if you're in any state and you have a scarcity of energy, you're not going to feel good. Okay, that's another reason why the only time people really feel, crappy on keto is if they're 4% body fat. But granted, at that point, anybody at 4% body fat is going to feel like shit because they don't have much stored resources of fuel on their body, okay? So that's essentially the only time where you don't have an abundance of fuel on a ketogenic metabolism. So the root of the problem here is not being in ketosis, right? Which I've explained. That's the keto gray zone I often refer to. So of course you don't want to be having more carbs than you should. Keto is very black and white. You either jump in and make the leap or you don't. But that's background knowledge for many of you watching this. You might be one of the people who's watching this and already knows this. So let's get into the strategies to make this easy. Whether it's for you, whether it's for a friend, doesn't matter. The ways you make this easy is over my years of coaching people and over my years of doing every kind of keto diet imaginable, okay? The thing is, it has to be something you jump into, and rather than slowly titrating down, the way you actually make this easy is with supplements, macro distributions, and other eating strategies I'm going to explain in a moment. So essentially, when you first make that jump, your body is going to detect a difference in the amount of water you're retaining. So basically, when you eat carbs, that makes you retain water. When you stop eating carbs, right, for all intents and purposes, that's what I'm talking about when we're going to ketosis. When you stop eating carbs, your body's going to raise the amount of water. It's going to try to hang on to more water. So essentially, what you need to do is you need to add in sodium and potassium, basically electrolytes, in order to retain more water and actually get that hydration. A lot of times when you think you're hungry, it's actually because you're not hydrated and your body essentially is trying to get you to hang on to more water, okay? Water retention is regulated on a moment-to-moment basis, okay? So switching from higher carb amounts to lower carb, right, keto area, is going to cause, a big shift. So you need to adapt for that. And that's the one big tip up front, which is start getting around 5,000 milligrams of sodium a day. Okay, don't overdo potassium because it will cause problems for your heart, and like if you had just shitloads of potassium, it could really cause problems. But as long as you're getting, a couple thousand of potassium every day, and you're getting 5,000 milligrams of sodium when you're starting keto, that will be beneficial. I have links in the description to potassium supplements I like, and you can get salt from Celtic salt or pink salt. Celtic salt's a little bit better because pink salt sometimes can get more heavy metals in there, but pink salt, Himalayan salt is still good. Celtic salt, just real salt, okay? Not like the table salt BS, okay? So essentially, get some salt in, and that will help dramatically. That's the first tip. The second tip here is what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are eating higher fat up front. Now, granted, I've said in many videos before, keto is not necessarily a high fat diet. High fat is simply a byproduct of the diet being low carb. The only requirement to be in ketosis is that you're not eating carbohydrates, okay? So if you stop eating altogether, you'd be in ketosis because you're not eating carbs. If you're not eating anything, you're not eating carbs. So you don't have to fast completely and only eat fat, right? Eating fat is not going to put you in ketosis. It's the lack of carbohydrates. So you want to start off with more fat because A, it will keep you satiated. B, fat is very dense in energy without raising your blood sugar, and that will give you plenty of energy. It will also keep you more full, as I said before. But the main reason here is you want to get your body a better fat-burning engine. You want to install a better fat-burning engine into your body. So the way you do this is you start by training your body to oxidize more fat, to basically run through more fat. And the way you do this is you start off with a higher fat keto approach. Oftentimes people will tell you, oh, keto is high fat, you have to do it all the time. You don't. And if you're looking for more weight loss, you actually should tweak it in certain ways that maybe reduce the fat. But we're not getting into that right now. When you're starting off, the way I start off every plan for almost everybody I work with, especially if they're new, is the first month is a higher fat traditional keto diet where basically you're able to eat as much food as you want. You don't count calories for the beginning because you're trying to get your body used to this state, okay? Practicality and getting used to things is the key variable here. It's the primary goal that you're after in that first month. So higher fat is essentially going to be helping you install that fat burning engine, because if you just stop eating altogether, sure, you would get in ketosis and that would help, but your body isn't really getting used to churning through fat, okay? If you give it more fat, that'll help you to actually feel satiated. Geez, that's a lot of thunder. And what will happen is basically, after that point, you're basically training your body to churn through that type of fuel better, okay? From there, you also want to make sure you don't restrict calories, okay? I mentioned that briefly a moment ago, but you don't want to restrict calories because especially for people who are in the first week, what's going to happen is your body, if you're coming from a carb diet, is going to be used to blood sugar spikes all the time. And the way you can kind of give it a little hit of that without breaking ketosis is simply eating food. Anytime you eat food, your insulin's going to go up unless you're eating pure fat, but that's a topic for my fat fasting videos if you're interested in that. But anytime you eat food, you're going to give your body some sense of gratification, some sense of satisfaction from eating without actually raising your sugars. So what you should do at that point is essentially eat without a calorie limit, eat high fat macro ratios, okay? Focus on that because that's going to help your body to get more energy, and add in the electrolytes. Now, those are the 3 big tips. After that point, of course, after a month, you will gain more of a fat adaptation. And this is where you can tweak the macros a little more. If you're on a short timeline or your goal is 100% fat loss, then of course there are other tweaks to make things more aggressive. But as far as practicality goes, you want to incorporate those 3 tips as training wheels, because adding in the electrolytes, not eating a calorie limit, and eating higher fat is going to make adjusting to ketosis way more easy than slowing down your carbs and gradually going lower, okay? A lot of people will think that going lower, like gradually titrating down the carbs, is what is going to give this training wheels type of effect. That's not what's going to make your body adapt to burning fat. What's going to make your body adapt to burning fat quicker and more enjoyably is jumping into ketosis, adding in the electrolytes to counteract any sort of hunger or fatigue that you may have, and then from there, making sure you have high amounts of fat to get your body used to churning it out, and also eating whenever you're hungry, just to simply get your body to adjust to not having constant blood sugar spikes. Okay, those are the biggest tips to make starting keto easy, and it's simply not something that you want to do if you are slowly titrating down the carbs. That is the complete opposite, because if you incorporate those 3 tips, the experience of keto is going to be hard for the first 3 days, And after that, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. Okay? And this is the most common thing about keto. But if you do it the other way with the slow titration down of carbs, it's only going to get harder and harder because you're going from 200 and then you're going to 150 and then you're going to 100. You're keeping your body on a carb metabolism and things are going to get harder as you go down. Okay? When you do it the other way that I recommend, things get easier and it's only hard for 2 or 3 days. Okay? The key variable here is you need to deplete your liver of its glycogen stores, which is your carb stores. So essentially, if you are continuously eating carbs, but then going lower and lower and lower, you're not depleting your liver glycogen. This is the key scientific point here, is that you need to deplete your liver glycogen before you can enter ketosis, and you cannot do that if you're continuously eating carbs and keeping your body on a carb metabolism. See where I'm going with that? So that is why you should do it the way that I'm recommending there, and I've seen this through people I've coached for years. So at the end of the day, that is the fundamental scientific, definite or explanation you need there. But the only other thing I should add on here is continuously eating carbs is going to make you more addicted to carbs. When you're not eating them, your body will adapt and you won't crave them any longer. Okay, that is the biggest fact, that you will perpetuate your desire for carbs if you keep eating them while you're trying to slowly titrate down. And in reality, if you simply go a month of keto, you will gain a level of fat adaptation to the point where you can start eating more carbs again, and you'll actually feel not like you're endlessly hungry all the time. You'll be able to eat carbs like a reasonable human being, okay? If you simply get that adaptation first, and then that way your body can be more metabolically flexible. So it's far better to jump into the deep end first and treat this almost like an addiction, like you're trying to quit the sugar right away. Not that that's the best tactic for all addictions, but you get the point. You have to treat it like it's a bad habit and drop it, even though sugar is not necessarily bad in and of itself. But that's the key point here. So that is the end of this video, and I want you to subscribe to me right now if you liked it, and if you did like it, and also follow my Instagram and go to my website, romanoketo.com, if you want to work together, or check out my programs, because I have a keto starter guide that's coming out very soon. It's probably maybe out by the time you're watching this video, a few weeks after I posted it, where essentially this is going to teach you the best ways to start keto to make it easy and practical. Okay, practicality is key when you're starting keto. It's a very different diet than any other type of diet you may have done before, because it gets easier as you go on if you're willing to put up with 2 or 3 days of just not enjoying the experience up front. Many people don't even have that experience. Okay, it's a big myth about the keto flu, and realistically, unless you're coming from a very bad diet in the first place, you're not going to have any problems. Okay, especially if you account for the sodium, if you account for calories, and you also account for higher fat in the beginning. Okay, and last thing I'll add here actually too is, this is key. If you are somebody who's very overweight, I'm stressing this deeply, so I'm pausing for dramatic effect. If you're somebody who is already very overweight, do not titrate down. This is the worst thing you can do, and it ruins the experience for so many people. So many people, if they're very overweight, they're already pretty insulin resistant, and that basically means their body has a bad ability to use carbs. So basically you have to take more and more and more in to actually use them. So again, if you titrate down slowly and lower your intake of carbs, when your body's already not effective at using them, your body's going to crave them even more, and you're going to rebound and have this sort of relapse effect all the time. So for people who are very overweight, it's even more important to jump into keto territory and simply take those precautions I recommend, which is again the sodium, the fat increase, and the calorie lack of restrictions. Okay, that is it for this video. I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.